Today we look at a way to enhance the common Monogram Vet, the SW1500 progress. I mentioned in the past the speakers that I've used, and we unpack an instant flat car load in this episode of Soo the Milwaukee Road. Updating as to where the SW1500 is at, as you can see, I've done the grabs. I mentioned this one that I bent before. It's still not glued in, it's still loose. But I do have the front grabs now bent up, and they are also loose, but they need to get painted, so I'm going to be able to pull them off, paint them white. I did pull the spark arresters off of these. Spark arresters actually come off fairly easy. They're just these two pieces here, and what I actually do on the locomotive before I pull them off is I just kind of twist them a little bit, and the glue will crack free, pull them off, and you're going to be able to do what you need to with these. In this particular case, I'm going off of photographs.
It's a beaut, Clog, it's a beaut.
And these are actually a lot rustier and a little bit worn out. It doesn't look like the Soo Line repainted them silver when they acquired it from the M&S. The locomotive itself looks nice and white. They may have lifted these off or masked them off, painted the locomotive, and then exposed these that did have some kind of wear and tear of rusting and so forth. I'm going to simulate that on these two. That's why I've removed them from the locomotive. I do have to repair a couple other things. The bell itself has an issue where this airline should actually go into the top of the bell. It's coming along. I do have a patch in the back. If you see right above the window there, they had drilled out and they had a light. Looking at the prototype photos, it looks like it's just actually a circular plate. I'm not going to emulate a light being in that location if that's actually what that was. But I'm also going to weather this. One thing that is difficult about weathering white locomotives is they're white. It's too easy to over-weather. You can just end up blasting them full of chalk or airbrushing, and that's not something you want to do. They did get dirty, but I'm simulating a 1984, 85-ish paint scheme, which would be fairly fresh. And with that said, I'm going to try to keep this somewhat clean. All right, weathering louvers. I recently had shown my dad this technique, and what I use is actually a little bit of brown, a little bit of black, and I go into the opposite direction of the louver itself. You're trying to emphasize that there's actually depth in the actual louver, so I go upward, and that actually just adds a little bit of a black edge on each of the louvers. If you overdo it, it's all right. You can wipe your finger off the top just to help clean it off. You can see that upper right of the three. I can just wipe my finger down these just to clean it off a little bit. And this is the end product. I try to give it that emphasis that the louvers are actually a through slot. And this is what it looks like before. I'm going to lightly just use a dry brush. It doesn't have a whole lot of chalk on it. I'm going to go over the whole car body just to highlight all those little details. And there you have it. This is before. And then, of course, this is after. Very subtle. Here we have a 1989 Monogram 187 scale Corvette. It's a ZR1 with ugly wheels. One way to make this thing look better is to give it a new paint job, maybe even some new wheels. If we look at this one here, I was doing a little research, 1985 Vet. It was red, too cliche. It's like lipstick. I want something a little bit better than that. So I went two-tone. This particular car I came up with and figured it's already silver. We'll just mask it off and make it black, and we can make it our own. So I take this ugly little blob, find myself some new wheels. Happen to be on this Bush Capri. Yeah, a little too new, but those wheels are going to work perfect. All right, so I blow this thing apart, take all the pieces, start masking it off, get ready to shoot it black. Once it's all black, I'm going to be able to peel all this off and take care of the interior. I painted it gray and black to make it match just like it is on the outside, gray and black. That ugly old silver blob now is this sleek new street machine. So now the next time you have someone over at your railroad, they're like, whoa, check out those two. They end up looking at the vets. Well, they might be bigger car guys than train guys, but at the end of the day, you end up having a nice lash up with a few people that are spectating with some nice rides. And now we're looking at the actual drive itself. The drive, I'm going through this, and as you can see, I've dropped the trucks or the wheels off of this one. The side frames are not present. I'm going to paint these actually with a flat black. You can see the one single post. They come off fairly easy. You just put a screwdriver underneath and just kind of give it a little twist and they'll pop out. They're just pressure fit. So that's why these have been set aside. And to be able to drop off the actual clip on an Athearn locomotive, just slide the screwdriver underneath. You have a little pressure. I'm giving pressure to the upside, and then I work it across. You can see I've lifted one side. Same thing again. Slide the screwdriver underneath. I apply pressure to the one side of the clip, and now you've removed the clip itself. The wheels, I look at these, and if you look at them up close, this actual frame, the one I took off, you can actually see metal shavings that have accumulated here. So this thing has been under duress.
That's a shame.
It has not necessarily been loved, but it's worked hard. And with that said, I'm replacing them to these Athearn replacement wheels. Here's the old wheel that came off. They wore the nickel plate right down to the brass. The brass may tarnish and it may pick up more debris as it's rolling, so I'm going to these just to try to prevent against that and allow for better connectivity for electricity. Now these are Athearn replacement gears. They're a 40-inch replacement, which is actually 40028. 6-pack. I'm saving the other 2. I can use them on GP20s if I'm replacing any cracked gears or even any of the GP9s, GP7s that Proto had made. I'm hanging on to them. I might actually put a set of these in the Critter because I ended up with just 2 that were left over. Always keep your extras on hand, of course, and it's not worth throwing away a perfectly good wheel. These particular ones I might actually use in a dummy, so you don't necessarily throw those away either. The axle gear itself could be reused. So keep those in mind, add them to your parts bin. What I'm going to be working on is getting the install on this, the DCC system. I'm going to put in the sound. I mentioned in the past, the speakers that I've used is actually one that comes with them, and this is from TCS. The TCS Wow Sound has a speaker that's included. This is actually a decoder that I'm going to be putting in it. This is the motherboard itself. It comes with a decoder, it comes with a keep alive, and then it comes with the speaker. This is a TCS kit. I really like them because of the kit function. It's all together and all in one. If the speaker isn't a size that you necessarily like, I have used these Ice Cube speakers. A local modeler, Jeff Dombrowski, they can be found on Facebook.com if you search Ice Cube speakers. They should pop up. They are a great sounding speaker. I've put them into a GP40 that I have. And they end up putting a lot of sound out for their size. So consider that when you're doing a switcher. Or the speaker that I've also gone to here is the iPhone speaker. Just 2 little leads, you solder them on, and you can find a home somewhere within the locomotive to be able to install this. Fellow modeler Bob Rivard also mentioned he has cut these down, so he's modified them, he's cut it off. You can either plate it, and he's even said he's left them open where the actual sound then comes out the end. There is foam within inside this particular speaker, so that may deaden it a little bit. I'm a fan of encasing the sound always, so I end up putting a piece of styrene over the end and gluing it. But again, sharing that information with fellow modelers is what is key. This is just in conversation and passing when talking to other guys and what they do. But where this particular locomotive is at, this is what we've got going on. The one last thing I will point out is the actual fuel tank. Because Athearn allows you to just unscrew it. You see the underside of the chassis, and it's got 1 screw on it. And the reason I do that is the fine details you can see all the way around the perimeter of this particular tank. I take it off so they don't get bumped off or knocked off. And with that said, I'll continue the progress on this particular locomotive, and we'll see how she turns out in the end. The M&S had more than 2 of which EMD units. Was it the SD39, the SW1500, the SD38-2, or the SW1200? If you guessed the SW1200, you'd be correct. The M&S had a total of 6 of the EMD SW1200s in their roster.
What do you want?
HDS, sir. And how are you this afternoon? Alrighty then. I have a package for you.
Sounds broken.
Most likely, sir. I'll bet it was something nice, though.
Oh, it's nice and it's not broken. It's from the model car service. Let's cut into this package and take a look at what it is. Interesting packing. This is done by Artitech, and these are resin cast bulldozers. Now obviously you've got a worn version that is actually tired and worn out, and then you have a nice new version. And these are instant flat car loads. Basically just pull them out of the box and drop them right on the freight car, and they end up being a real nice load to be able to have on your railroad. Look at this, simple as that. Boom, instant load. Obviously you can do the tie downs and you can make it look even more realistic than this, but to be able to have a model taking it right out of the box and look like this, there's no complaints.
Be sure and hit the like button. You can click here to subscribe. You can also check out other episodes of Soo the Milwaukee Road, as well as take the tour of the GN in 1970.